You should have married your mother. You know that, don't you? Hi, Dave Crispin from Secret Men's Business. And that comment about you should have married your mother is a comment that comes up every now and again in my business as a relationship coach. And what it exactly means is that I run around after you all the time and I get very little appreciation for it. And the reason I say that is because the conversations that I'm having at the time is because the marriage or the relationship is faced with some obstacles or some challenges, difficulties. And we're trying to work out how we can navigate around that or through those issues. Now, we don't just get to a certain age and all of a sudden these behaviours just come upon us. They've been with us for a long time, and normally they come from what we've witnessed in our what we call family of origin, or the family that we grew up in our formative years. If you were adopted or if you were in a foster family, it's really about what you witnessed when you became aware of how you relate with one another, your siblings, what you observed between the two adults or adults in your family. And they're the models that we take forward into our relationship. Now, if what you witnessed was maybe the model of a strong patriarch, a father that ruled the roost, and the mother was the one that was basically sort of the caregiver. She was the one that looked after the kids, maybe stayed at home, depending on how old you are. And the father went out to work. And it was the father that had the say-so. What he said goes, and I mentioned that in my previous video. But if that's what you witnessed, and that's your model of relating, is that the male is the one that takes the lead role, and the male has the last word. If you then get into a relationship with a female or someone else where they witnessed a strong matriarch, so the mother ruled the roost or she had the say-so in the family, often there lies the problem, because you're coming at the relationship, or you're entering into this relationship thinking that I'm the one that has the say-so, the last say. I'm the one that has the more dominant role. And yet if your partner is coming from the same space, but it's the female that is the more dominant of the two, or was the more dominant of the two in the relationship, then that's their model. Now, don't get me wrong, if that worked in both those models, in both those relationships of your parents, then that's fine. But what we're talking about, or what we're working with, is your model. So if your model of your relationship isn't working, then obviously there's got to be some communication. There's got to be a sit down and work out what's best for you two. Because there's no hard and fast rule. There's no set rules that this is how it should be. And what works for one couple might necessarily not work for others. Now, when we look at our family growing up, we can take some of the good points out of that and we can leave some of the bad points. But it's often when we just move into another relationship, a new relationship, and we adopt those models, if we don't know anything else, then that's what we're going to use. When I work with couples, and it's often when it's got to that point where it's not working, and the language I used earlier, that comment about you should have married your mother, it normally comes from a place where it's got to the point where one's almost just about to move out, or they recognise that there's a lot of problems, there's a lot of challenges, and they don't know how to navigate around that, and they're after help. So when we start talking about the model they use at the moment and where they think that their models of relating came from. And it may not be from the family that they grew up in. It may be from what they've seen on TV, and believe it or not, that does happen. Or what they've spoken to about friends, or experiences that they've had in the workplace, relationships in the workplace. So there's no right or wrong in the models of relating. It's just what works for your situation, for the relationship that you have at the time. And when that comes into it, that you should have married your mother, it's obviously when there's a lot of hurt from one side, where it feels like one partner is doing all the work and the other one is sitting back and just allowing that to happen. And what that means is that that partner that came out with that statement is feeling a lot of resentment, that they're doing all the heavy lifting, and the person that comment is aimed at is having a bit of a free ride. So unless that person that's having the free ride steps up and takes some more responsibility, then the resentment that the partner is feeling, the one that made that statement, it's only going to get worse, because resentment is basically unexpressed anger. Resentment is unexpressed anger. And then from resentment, if it goes down the track of contempt, and contempt starts to come into your relationship, and you lose that respect for your partner, then that's a sign that things are going drastically wrong. When we talk about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse with regards to relationships, criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. And I'll do a video on this in the coming weeks. But contempt, when you hold your partner in contempt, that's really a sign that there's a lack of connection in your relationship, and you lose that respect. And when contempt comes into the relationship, that's a sign that things are going drastically wrong. You've lost that lack of connection. And then you start to disrespect one another, lack of trust, and it can even go as far as disdain. You just feel that utter contempt for one another. So it's an idea to try and nip it in the bud. So even though that may seem quite a harmless statement, that you should have married your mother, let that be a warning sign or a signal that things aren't how they should be. Because a relationship is about 2 people. It's not just one running around after the other. Ask how you can help and be a part of that team. Because relationships are about us, about we, ours. It's not a you, it's not a me, it's not a mine, or an I, or a you. It's a together, it's a team effort. So pull your weight and step up. Next time in our video series, I'm going to talk about the 5 love languages. And when things do start to come undone, when they do start to unravel, the 5 love languages is a great place to start. So until next time, I'll see you then. Bye.